wrong scene.
Hello, hello, hello,
Hello,
hello,
hello,
hello, hello.
hello. we, we're going to do this for 2.5 hours. It'll be that's now our long that's our long hello. We have the long goodbye after. All right, so we got Jerry, we got Charlie. Hey, Charlie, I hope you're feeling better now. I hope you're getting. Yeah, I hope you feel better today. Jerry. Oh, there's Charlie again. Good, thank you, Natalie. Hello, Natalie. We got Dylan in the house. We got Lori in the house. We got Sally. Um, Kim Gail Romy. How to rate my first live with y'all. I'll watch it, but never made the live yet. Well, welcome aboard. Um, Sally. Very
Well,
cool.
one thing's for sure. Once they're bored, they don't want to get off.
No, I know. Sea Cat's in here too. So, all right. Well, episode what, number 8 on the book? And we're at
uh,
page
yeah.
something like that. Um, so let's get to this page right now. So we're going to what I got planned for today. I kind of reviewed the books, went through the books that we went through last week, and decided that with the topic we're going through right now, the King is Dead is one that's well better suited with the book Decoded. The Dr. Tennant's book, Mr. Tennant's book, um, is probably better for another type of episode because we're not getting so much into the autopsy part and all the funeral stuff in this book from what I've known so far. If we do, then we'll bring it in. The 30 pieces of silver is going to have to be a wholly different thing because that's all on the that's all a a review and a discrediting of the book Elvis What Happened, and that's 770 pages worth. So at the rate we're going, that'll take us 77 weeks to get through. That's a year and a half. Hey, Kathleen. Um, anyways, I don't know if I really have any other news. How you doing, Cam? How's your week
I'm uh,
going?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Got some good rest?
Uh, what's that? Can you eat
No.
it? No, it is what it is now. It's gonna get better, but it's not quite there yet.
Well, we had fun last night on the movie watch. GI Blues was fun. Um,
Yeah, I know. I had fun too because 3 minutes before I was going to come in, the internet went out. And then I got the notification to say that internet connection is currently down due to necessary maintenance. Estimated time of connectivity would have been 3 hours. They
that's
should
the
have
time
said
we were through.
they should have said 3 plus 6.
Yeah, well, I think. Oh, yeah, they're never right. Yeah, it went about 3 hours last night after the movie. We talked about an hour and a half afterwards, but it was fun. You know those movie watches. We got another one tomorrow. It's at 6. So if you guys want to come on in, let me know, and we'll have some fun with it. All right. Um, we are going to flip over to screen share, and we're going to pick up where we left last week in the book Decoded. And this is my paraphrasing of the book. What I'm doing now is instead of reading it page by page, which is not, I can't really do, I've paraphrased it and we're reviewing it. Basically, all the same content, but we're going to see how far we get in. I got to, this is, when I had it paraphrased last week, we got through half of it. So this is the other half of that one.
Okay.
And then I got several on The King is Dead. So it'll be a good conversation. I think some interesting points. But one thing I do want to share, and let me see, did I keep it out here? For those of you who did not see this, I just thought about it. have no idea where I put that. All right. Well, I done lost it now. Okay. Well, the note that I put out, I got a Actually, I know where I can get it. I where's the where's Renee's? That's that. Renee sent me a quote from a magazine that was published in November 1979. It's called Elvis the Record. And let's see. I'll go like that. And I want to read this to you. Pretty interesting for those of you who did not see it the other day. I hope I say that there. I don't know if you saw this, Cam.
No.
This is an interview with Patty Presley 2 years after Elvis passed, and I got the the full article, the full um. Oh, that's what it was. Fuck, I know what it is. This isn't the one. Okay, let's just get moving. I don't know. I don't want to be sitting here doing this game again like I do when I don't have. I think about stuff afterwards. Um, today, it's gotta say Patsy. I know where I'll find it. PDFs. All right, there you are. Okay, let's go there. This is kind of interesting. Um, I'm gonna share this right here, and I hope it shares fine. So we've been talking about the death scene. You know, the bathroom. Pisses me off, right? Talk about technical errors lately. I can't get an answer back from anybody for anything I'm trying to do. You know,
Wow.
it's like, okay, this is a magazine. This is the magazine, and I think this is over in the UK or over in Europe. This is a magazine that they put out now. Volume one, number 7 was that there was an interview with Patsy Presley, Elvis's double cousin,
Hmm.
and this was obviously scanned, you know, with a phone or somehow. So this is what I want to share right here. Um, Now I need to enlarge it a little bit. This article, right? I don't know if I can read that or not. I'm gonna sit here and play games with this damn thing. I'm gonna get pissed here in a minute. It's just this red, yeah, right there. Oh, I'm talking to myself. Okay, so the magazine record. This is the question, Patsy. Were you at Graceland the day Elvis died? Patsy, yes, I was. It was about 2:15 in the afternoon, which is, you know, it's within the window. You're asking her, you know, time frame. Uncle Vernon got a call in the office from Joe Esposito, who was upstairs at the time, to come upstairs. I answered the phone, and Joe asked to speak to Uncle Vernon. I gave Uncle Vernon the phone, and I heard him say, "Okay, Joe, I'll be right up." I could tell by the look on his face that something was wrong. As he started out, he turned and said, "Oh my God, Patsy, something is wrong with my baby." I got up and followed him into the house. Okay, give me a second here to get up to, to maneuver around. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to see, but let's see if I can do this right. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is kind of hard to read. Um, go a little bit larger here, guys, so I can see it. I don't know if you guys. All right, there we go. That'll be better. I wish I had this ready before. I just thought of it while I was sitting there talking to you, Cam. That this fucking sucks. I swear to God, you guys got to. It's a laugh a minute here with me. Okay, I don't know what the hell I'm getting. I'm getting all kinds of. I have no idea where that's coming from. Did you hear that noise?
Yeah,
I have no fucking idea what that was. There it is. All right, so she follows, but I couldn't. I followed him into the house and right upstairs, through Elvis's bedroom and right into the bathroom. Now, I don't recall in any of what we've covered in Decoded that Patsy and Vernon went into the bathroom. Do you remember
no,
anything of that?
no,
Uncle Vernon knelt down and started to talk to Elvis. They worked trying to get him to move. Uncle Vernon was very upset, and I tried to reassure him. But the ambulance came. It all happened so fast after that, I can't remember anything. That's the crutch, the crutch that I just spent a half an hour trying to get to you guys. Um, of what I wanted to share. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm gonna go home here in a minute. I have. I don't understand where everybody's gone. There you are. You know what? I should just go to bed. Let you take it over. This is fucked up. I'm sorry, guys, for my language, but I'm really getting pissed now. When technology doesn't work, just irritating. Now watch this. Watch this not even work now. I had it all set earlier. Oh man, God. Oh my God. I'm gonna cry here in a minute. I literally am. I'm getting really pissed. Guys, I'm sorry.
it's okay. It happens from time to time.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. You guys are being very patient. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so now I just need to scoot this over. I think. Why am I?
It's okay. It gives everybody time to go make coffee.
My mouse is not fucking cooperating now. I suck at this. Well, this I told you this is the 3 hour hello. You know what I'm saying? Once I set this, okay. Can you read that? All right,
Yeah, that's okay.
all right. Let me take my medication. Here. No, just kidding. Anyway, sorry guys. I really am sorry about that. Um, hey, I ought to do that more. We just to gain more viewers. Hey guys, pass it around. It's on Messenger. Rick's fucking up online right now. You gotta go check it out. All of a sudden, boom! I got 5 news. If you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at?
Yeah,
Oh
for
my
sure.
God! All right. So, anyways, that just kind of it shocked me when Renee sent that to me. Totally floored me. Um, it because I don't remember the discussion.
No.
3 hour hello, 3 hour goodbye. We're done for the day. Oh man. So anyway,
At least, at least I'm not the wise ass this time.
That's true. We've taught them very well, haven't we? I you did. Yeah, oh yeah, you were there. You were with us on Sunday when we did. I still laugh about this. Is Lori on with us? Did she? Is
Yeah.
she? So when we were doing the word for the day, right? She gave one guess, and she obviously been listening to me talk too much. Her word was I was laying here the other night. It was Monday night. Oh, no, I think it was Monday night, and I was Patty had sent me the her song list so for this week because she got the word of the day, and I'm sitting there laughing. I just started thinking about it, and I looked at that. I'm glad I just didn't start choking on my drink when she said that because I looked at it. I guess the word All right, let's get down to business.
Well, it shows that the people are listening to us at least.
Yeah, the truth. Hey, what'd you guys learn? Well, we learned let's see what we learned I don't know what I don't know what we learned. Oh my god. This is too much fun, you guys. All right, Rick, you are easily amused. Ain't that the truth? I am easily amused. That one though tickled me hey buddy, headphones on, dogs are here. All right. It's the truth. I put these headphones on and I start talking. They know that it's time for dog treats because I give them to them to get away. All
Oh,
right.
what happened?
I don't
What
even know if
happened?
I can catch up on the comments here.
Before I forget, what happened with the asparagus? Sunday night?
Oh, not what? Nothing happened that I know. Lori never said nothing. Um, but so the other day, and this was before. When was it before we did the Zoom meeting, or I was talking about it in the Zoom meeting? Zoom.
Yeah.
I love asparagus, and my wife picked me up a can of asparagus to. I like it for snacks, and Finnegan loves asparagus. I'm feeding him, and he winds up eating half my asparagus. Then I got to thinking, well, we know what asparagus does to the digestive system in being able to emit not um almost um I can't think of a word to say.
Unless
Well,
it, it,
net
it,
less than stellar. Oh, I don't know.
it creates it creates less desirable emissions.
Yeah, almost a poisonous gas at times. And I forgot about that. Well, Finnegan sleeps with my wife. I'm thinking, oh my god, she's gonna give me hell for that one. Anyway, that she never said nothing to me, so I'm gonna ask her if he. But do you have any issues with the odor in the room? All right. Where are we
And
at?
if she goes, and what you gonna say if she says no? Why?
Then I'm going to tell her she needs to. I don't know. Maybe they were all competing in the room. Anyway, I thought I just kind of hit me later that I probably shouldn't have fed him any asparagus. Crazy dog. I tell you, it's the weirdest. It's the strangest dog. But Dugan, a lot of this stuff he wouldn't eat, but Finnegan loves mushrooms, loves tomatoes. He's like me. He loves salads. Bailey just kind of looks at me, going, "I'll take the bone over there." Yeah. Perhaps he's a heavy sleeper. Yeah. All right, guys. So here we go. How jurisdiction may have been avoided. So we were the conclusion of the last section we had is with many aspects of the medical record surrounding Elvis's death, credible sources present sharply opposing accounts. At present, the question of whether a cranial autopsy was performed cannot be resolved with certainty. Further research remains necessary. So that's how we ended last week, which I think was actually a pleasant thought. But no one really comes down to an exact conclusion that yes, there was a cranial examination. That's the word.
I would imagine they did because they
Yeah.
didn't have anything concrete to go to at first. So I would imagine they did.
So here's theory one: how jurisdiction may have been avoided. And this is regarding the autopsy. So one explanation proposes that Vernon signed consent for an autopsy. The examination remained classified as a hospital-initiated procedure rather than one formally ordered through the legal system. Under Tennessee law, an autopsy tied to a criminal or suspicious death should be requested by the district attorney and conducted under the authority of the county medical examiner. Had this occurred, the resulting report would have become a public document. This is what we
Okay.
talked about last week.
Yes.
So that's why, and well, of course, we'll get more into it. It may come back and bite me in the ass for what I'm about to say, but that's why it will never be released because it's up to the family to release it. They own it.
Mhm.
It's not a public document, and since he paid for it, and so the rumor that his autopsy, the death certificate's out there, and as far as the exact autopsy, it hasn't been released. And that's what I know. We may find out different as we go along, but you know, things. Yeah, you're right, Jerry. Some things are just better left alone. Nothing like good friends with whom you can just bodily functions. That topic does come up quite a bit in some of our.
Here's another thought to keep in the back of your mind while you're reading this. Maybe, maybe Vernon asked personally for the autopsy to be done, knowing that there was this loophole, and asking for it to be done in that sense would have made sure that it never became public record.
Yeah, I'm quite sure that he got some advice from somebody to say, "Get the you make the request," or you
Yes,
because I don't. At that moment, I may be wrong, and I'm agreeing with you. That's probably the route he took. Uh, but Vernon would have had to have some advice on that, in my opinion, based upon
yes,
his mental and emotional conditions at the time. It wouldn't have been the thought, and also too, it may have been a decision that may have been. It's, I think it's always hard to have an autopsy done on somebody that's close to you and loves you, that you love, and
yes.
but so that would have been a hard decision because autopsy is the most invasive thing you can have done to you.
Maybe he had some advice to say, look, ask for it yourself. That way the document will always be private
Yeah.
and it will not become open to being ripped apart years from now.
Yeah, and then at the end of the autopsy, if there's something in it that would stimulate an investigation criminally, then it probably would have. Then the law probably would have stepped in
Yes.
and said, yeah, this has got to be investigated, and that would be used as a form of the initial, prod to get this discussion going.
Yeah, there we go. Charlie has a point. Maybe Dr. Nick himself knew, and that's why he took the consent form straight to one and said, sign it.
Bingo. That's the person that yeah, would have known.
Because he wouldn't know.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. Yeah, good point, Charlie. Thanks. We knew we kept you around here for a reason. All right, so let's continue. Instead, the situation. Oh, let me get my mouse back over here. Instead, the situation appear. If you guys wonder why I turned my head, it's because this document is in full screen to the left of me on a separate monitor in which I take my mouse over to scroll it because I can't scroll it on here because it's over here. if that makes sense. Anyway, I don't. It's not like I'm looking at somebody over here. Instead, the situation appears to have unfolded differently. Jerry Francisco reportedly relied on an ambiguity in state statute that allowed him to, I cannot believe I just said that word, that allowed
Mhm.
him to acknowledge the necessity of an autopsy while simultaneously asserting that the hospital's examination remained a private medical record. Because the district attorney had not officially ordered the procedure, Francisco maintained that the findings were protected under medical confidentiality provisions. And that's just the early HIPAA laws, HIPAA laws didn't come into effect. I can't official HIPAA laws. I can't remember when it came out. I don't think they were around back then, but there was still the confidentiality between a patient and a doctor. Hey, Patty, welcome aboard. So the forensic pathologist Cyril Wecht,
Silhouette.
huh?
Silhouette.
Cyril Wecht summarized this position by stating that Francisco declined to release autopsy and toxicology results, arguing that they were not part of an official investigation. Francisco further indicated that the examination had been performed by a hospital pathologist at BMH and that he himself acted only as an observer, not as the authority in charge of the case. A fundamental problem with this explanation is that Tennessee law generally requires that any sudden, unattended, or suspicious death fall under the jurisdiction of the county medical examiner. So, because Elvis died unexpectedly and without a physician present, the case would ordinarily have met those criteria, meaning that it would have been handled as a public medical legal matter. So, that's the first theory. Second theory,
But
natural.
here's but there's the span in the works for me. Sorry. There's the span in the works for me because the span in the works there is the fact that Vernon had already signed the autopsy request.
Yeah,
So he bypassed that immediately unbeknown to everybody else.
yeah, yeah. That's what. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. That's
Had he not done it,
what I got.
then
Yeah,
had he not done it, then that would have been the legal route to follow. But
right.
Dr. Nick knew about it, and basically Dr. Nick did under the circumstances. Dr. Nick did him a good solid in terms of evading future uh, controversy and
Mm,
also keeping the knife in Vernon's hand, so to speak.
mm. Yeah, I agree. 32, natural cause ruling shifted control. So the second explanation closely mirrors the first, but introduces an important distinction. At the time the autopsy was performed, the cause of death had not yet been established. Therefore, questions about public release of the report were not immediately settled. According to this view, once Dr. Francisco concluded that Elvis's death resulted from cardiac arrhythmia, a natural cause, the case was no longer classified as suspicious. Control of the autopsy report then shifted to the family. Had Francisco determined that Elvis died from non natural causes, the report would have entered the public domain regardless of any family request. So, under this interpretation, Vernon Presley's authorization of the autopsy did not meaningfully affect whether the report would later be released. Wait a minute. Under this interpretation, Vernon Presley's authorization of the autopsy did not meaningfully affect whether the report would later be released. So, I'm trying to understand exactly what he means by that line. Does it mean that because he
Under this,
authorized it, kind of, to me, it's almost contradicting that even though Vernon Presley authorized it, it doesn't affect whether it would be released or not.
Under this interpretation, Vernon Presley's authorization of the autopsy did not meaningfully affect whether the report would later be released. No, they're saying it didn't. It didn't. It didn't automatically guarantee that it would not be released because obviously they can still decide. Ultimately, the family can still decide if they want it to be released. So, by him signing the consent form prior to the medical examiner's examination, had he not signed the consent form, by him signing the consent form doesn't keep the document sealed forever and a day behind state law. It still keeps it available to the family to make a decision on that if they so choose in
Right.
future.
Trying to catch up here on something.
Whether they will or won't remains to be seen. But for the time being, it did what it needed to do. It kept
Mm.
the information private, and it kept them in a position of control to a certain extent without breaking the law.
See, Kim Gale says, I think it means if it was found not to be natural causes and criminal causes, then it would be released even if the family didn't want it to be. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what the law says.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim Gale. Um,
I
yeah,
must have been,
that makes it a whole lot more sense.
I must have been an attorney in my previous life because for some reason legal jargon is starting to make sense to me these days.
Okay, just remind me not to mess with you. No, when you're reading that stuff and you start, you know, I told you this before, Cam. The first thing I wanted to do when I got out of school was I was going to go to law school and try to become a lawyer, and then at, my how's it Elvis said my wires got wired. I got wired the wrong way. Well, I kind of got I got I don't know a rope and noose by getting married too young. Kind of screwed everything up. Conclusion on autopsy secret. Both explanations contain plausible elements. However, regardless of which scenario is correct, the practical outcome appears unchanged. The complete autopsy is unlikely ever to be publicly disclosed. And that's by Patrick Lacey states that. Sally states it in her book, and I think Dr. Tennant states it, will state it in his book too. So the rumors that next year the autopsy is going to be released are not true unless the family decides to release it. And I highly doubt Riley's going to let it be released.
No, I don't think so.
Well, first of all, that would knock her down a few notches on my likability of her because keep it private. I don't want to know.
There's no reason to.
Yeah.
There's no legal reason to do it. If they let's assume hypothetically they do it, what's what they going to gain out of it, except opening a massive can of worms that's just going to relight the fires of all the shit stories that have been spewed over the last 46 years. So there's no reason for them on God's green earth to make the report public, even if they decided to.
I'm actually surprised that after they got Elvis out of the home, it wasn't taped off in case. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, didn't we? Yeah,
Yes.
I think right off the bat, technically, it's the standard operating procedure for I would say the majority of departments. And let's take out of the picture that this is Elvis. It's
Yes.
standard operating procedure in just about I would say just about every police department if they're doing their job or any kind of investigative detective work. It's automatically if it looks suspicious at first and it's an unnatural look, 42 years old, we need to investigate this. It would have been taped off immediately until they discovered, whether it was natural causes or was some kind of criminal investigation. But for some reason, it didn't
In
happen.
my opinion, did they make a few technical blunders on that aspect? Yes,
Yeah.
but taking into account who he was, secondly, it must have been known in the channels above that the book was coming out, that controversy was looming on the backside of the book coming out. So they probably they probably purposefully didn't do certain things to try and keep the situation as neutral as possible without starting unnecessary fires. Because
Yeah.
had they followed natural procedure, let's say for a second they did, cordon the house off and nobody was allowed upstairs, and they found all they needed to find, they found everything that was cleaned up, etc., 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 there would have been always a possibility that somebody later on at some point in time would have spewed what they knew. And knowing that the book was coming out, it would have just added credence to the bullshit that was written in the book.
Yeah, you take a look at these days, and even back in those days, anytime somebody was discovered dead, and they were in that range of what why he's not old or anything like that, you see it all the time on the news where they got the whole house taped off. For example, Gene Hackman, when he passed away, him and his wife, when they
Yeah.
discovered him, the whole house was taped off. I
Yes.
mean, okay, now technically, or normally, being a 90-year-old guy, most people would have said he just died, of old age. But what with that situation was, you had two people that died, him and his wife at the same time, and so it became an automatic investigation for that. I never heard the result, but I heard it wasn't criminal. Um, but here you got with Elvis, you got you know, I think there was a little bit of maybe favoritism there, to protect. Yeah, and like you just said, Cam, just going with in the long way, I'm just agreeing with what you just said. It's just
They basically in that time they basically did the same. There's similarities with the way they handled the Jim Morrison case too.
yeah,
There's similarities in the way they handled Kurt Cobain's case in '94. The same thing. It in I almost want to say in certain instances it's a pity, but I can understand why they do it.
yeah. Wow. All right, so this is the thing that's interesting to me because they did, and well, photographs taken during the autopsy. What's Patty saying? Some states, people of a certain age who die unexpectedly with no obvious illness automatically have an autopsy. Yeah, that goes straight into criminal investigation or investigation is the cause. Accounts conflict on whether visual documentation was created during the autopsy. Some individuals insist that no photographs were taken. Others maintain that photograph records, possibly in the form of color slides, were produced and retained. Based on available testimony, it appears likely that some form of photographic documentation exists.
Dan
Either,
Warlick said he did take photos, and those photos
yeah,
were stolen from his car together with his notes.
they were stolen from his car.
Yes,
Now, being the fact that they've never been released, I would say they were stolen for secrecy, for privacy, instead of for
yes,
money making.
yes.
Because if somebody's stolen with the thought of with the thought of I gotta add a little flavor. Hey man, we started off boring, man. We gotta bring some liveliness to this thing. It would have they would have been released right away.
Yes,
Somebody would have sold them to the National Choir or something like that for whatever money they could get, because that was the magazine to go to for shit like that. You
yes.
know, so if they did and they were stolen by either somebody within that circle, and I would almost say, I don't want to say it, but almost say within the family structure. And I said, get those things. Let's get them out of here. Or
Maybe,
and I
maybe,
mean when I say family, I don't mean just blood family. I mean just that whole group.
somebody was in high ranks.
Yeah.
The police department,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean there was, I mean, I'm trying to think of where I read about, or where I heard about it, that there was, oh, it was, I can't remember. It was in a book I read a couple of years ago. I can't remember the book, but he was talking, but leads me to think that it was, they were taken by authoritative figures because no investigation was done into the supposed stealing of the medical notes and of the photographic evidence. So, because no investigation was made, I assume that it had to be somebody within the ranks,
And
and
if
which,
they did, I guarantee you they were destroyed
yes,
so that nothing they could go anywhere.
yes.
Um. mm,
And as shitty as it might seem, maybe it was done by somebody within the authoritative ranks at Vernon's request. Get hold of
yeah.
get hold of the evidence. If you need to destroy it, destroy it. Uh, I'll make it worth your while, kind of thing. Not saying that Vernon would resort to that normally, but under those circumstances, I think he would have done what he needed to do to keep that information out of the public realm for as long as possible.
And you had to whoever, and if you did that, you had to definitely have to trust the person doing it to not reproduce them, and then.
Yes,
But
maybe somebody like Dick Grobe.
yeah. It's 50, almost 50 years later, and the fact that not one even like the coffin picture, just somebody taking a snapshot of a color slide or something like that, has ever appeared.
No.
So, if their pictures were taken, I personally want to say thank you for getting rid of them. That's
Yes.
all I want to say. I would never wanted those to get out.
No. Especially not in the state that Elvis was.
Yeah, and also too, the if it got into a criminal investigation, then once they got that done, I would like to see them. Ain't no telling what would have happened if his death had happened in a. Here's a good thought. If that death had happened in another state, the
Mm.
whole thing would have been totally. He would not have had Dr. Nick there right away. He
No.
wouldn't have had the local police there. He would have had a
No.
whole different police department handling, and they would have done it as a criminal investigation because they
Yes.
didn't have close ties. And that's a scary thought to think if it happened 2 days later after he got through performing in Portland, Maine, or
Hmm.
along that tour. That would have just thrown it would have been a shitstorm from that point.
Yes. So from that aspect, uh,
It's
Elvis was at the best.
if it's a God given, if it was God given that he was to die right then and there, which I don't believe in, you know, that type of thing. Um, thank God it happened there.
Mm.
That's the only, it's not a great thought, but I'm glad it happened in his home, and he
It
died
was
in
the
his
best
home.
place for him to go.
The best place for him to go. Maurice Elliott, he served as the vice president of BMH, stated that standard photographs were not taken, but that color slides of Elvis's body on the autopsy table were created.
So
Joseph
same
D. Go ahead.
same thing, different format.
Yeah.
It's
Joseph
vinyl.
in not most of the times they anytime there was a couple of years when I dealt with some investigations. Um, uh, I had some workings with some, and all the time they did pictures of anything like a crime scene or anything like that, it was always into slides
Mm.
because they were able to project them up on a screen, and
Yes.
so back then, you
And
know,
also, they didn't have to be sent away to be developed.
right,
which also cut out the possibility of the person developing the
What
pictures,
well, they
making
did have to
copies
be
and selling.
processed. They did have to be
Yes,
developed, but
yes,
they
but,
that wasn't
but
the process. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
yeah,
it wasn't like a photograph, developing. It's a
yes,
little bit
because
different with slides. It's almost like a negative.
yes, because can you imagine what would have happened if they take regular photos, they send it off to a place to be developed, the photographer developing these pictures and puts two and two together. Oh, let me make a separate set here. Couple of years from now, these photos can be worth something.
Well,
Then you have then you have a whole new different shitstorm waiting to
most
go.
police departments and most hospitals probably have their own developing department.
Probably.
I would say at least today they do. I don't know about then. Technology today is just like back then. If you wanted a computer that could do what your iPhone does, you might as well just buy a city block to set it on because it's going to be freaking huge.
Yeah.
Joseph Davis indicated that photographic evidence supported conclusions about his body condition and further noted that the pathologist had prepared photographic materials. These statements independent reference visual records, whether described as photos or slides. Additional support appears down at the end of Lonely Street. I've got that book. I got to read. It's been a long time since I read it. I need to read it again. I'll add it to the stack. I, am already reading 5 books at the same freaking time. I got to stop and think about that would. Who's that? Which mentions a large collection of autopsy photographs. Another source has specifically cited the existence of 27 images showing his face. Finally, I do not want to see anything like that. And finally, a receipt from Shelby County Chancery Court references slides on 2 occasions. Now, I'm going to make a statement here that it might insult. I don't think it'll insult anybody in this group, but might insult anybody. But anybody who's an Elvis fan, who claims to be an Elvis fan, or says been a fan ever since, wants to see those pictures. You're not a true blue devoted Elvis fan. Or it's the same thing I say about wanting to go upstairs to his bedroom. Because to me, that's a morbid curiosity.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see pictures.
So the overall conclusion. Oh, finally, a receipt from Shelby County Chancery Court references slides on 2 occasions. Hold on a second. I think I did. I think I did do a good thing here. I think I. Oh, wait a minute. Decoded chat book right there. Yes, I do, don't I? Nope, of course, fucking not. Oh, sorry. Um, all right, I thought I'd pull those pictures out of the book, but anyways, while witness statements vary in terminology, multiple independent references suggest that some form of photographic or slide based documentation was created during or immediately after the autopsy. As with many aspects of Elvis's death investigation, definitive confirmation remains elusive. Oh, here we go. I did. I thought I had it in here. Um, Receipt for the autopsy papers. So let me see which one I could read easier. John C. Robertson, clerk and master, this date received from the Shelby County Attorney General's office the following papers regarding the Elvis Presley autopsy. 3 manila envelopes marked GJ1, GJ3, and GJ4, I think it says. A
Mm-hmm.
manila, does it say that?
Yes.
Damn, I'm doing good. A manila folder marked GJ2.
Yes.
6 manila folders marked A, B, C, D, E, and P? No, that's F.
F.
I'm just kidding. 2 small cardboard slide boxes.
Mm-hmm.
6 cardboard folding containers with slides. So there were pictures, according to this. Wouldn't you
But
agree?
yes, but here's my thought. This all pertains to the autopsy that was signed for by Vernon, right?
Right.
So, if my understanding is correct, any and all supporting evidence that forms part of that autopsy report belongs to the family.
Right.
So then, my assumption would be correct if I said those slides probably do exist or probably did exist at some point in time. But as they were the property of Vernon, he probably, as soon as he got hold of them, he probably either destroyed them himself or gave them to somebody of trustworthy nature to destroy them for him.
Yeah. I would almost lay odds they were burned
Yes.
because I personally, if I was in Vernon's situation, it's not that I don't trust any family members. I don't trust the people around family members. Is what it is. So
I,
if it
I
word
tend to
got out
think,
that Vernon that I had passed those on to a family member to handle, well, it bears to me two questions. Why? Why would you want to keep them if you don't want them to ever be out there? And knowing very well that after you pass, you don't know what's going on. You could die resting assured that those pictures will never go out if they're destroyed.
yes, I would assume that Vernon himself destroyed them.
Yeah. Yeah, see, cat, me too. There was a photo of Marilyn Monroe in the morgue. It was so wicked. She should have been. Yeah, and that's the other thing. There are people out there that it's all about money. It's all about notoriety. It's all about look what I have, type of deal. They have no respect for people like that. They released some of the not the autopsy, but the emergency room of JFK. I
Mhm.
don't know if I think they've released some of the autopsy reports over the years, but then you're talking about something different because that's a government that was a criminal investigation. And
Charlie, to answer your question, sorry, to answer Charlie's question, both. But we're specifically talking here about picture slides because the tissue slide samples would automatically be the property of BMH.
yeah,
They would form part of his patient file. So the picture slides that were taken at autopsy, those would be part of the autopsy report that Vernon requested and paid for. But with regard to
hey Kim.
the the tissue
Oh,
samples,
never mind.
those would be the property of the hospital because they would form part of the battery of tests
Yeah,
that they would have needed to have done, and then those automatically form part of his patient file, and then we're talking about patient doctor confidentiality.
right.
So specifically here we're referring to the picture slides that were taken. Those Vernon had the right to,
Yeah,
but he wouldn't have been able to have the right to the tissue sample slides because that would have then that would have made it difficult for the hospital to do
yeah.
the
No,
necessary
I would
tests.
imagine the pathology department after they'd done all the testing, they would have destroyed those.
Yes.
Because what would be the purpose of putting them on ice forever?
No.
Because those things, even under ice, they're going to degrade.
Yes. They
DNA,
would be worth nothing today even if they did exist.
right? So I would imagine that once they did their testing, their toxicology reports, and tested everything, I would imagine those things got tossed and or burned or whatever, however they destroy them. I would probably say just burned because usually that's how hospitals get rid of stuff like that. Usually,
Yeah, throw them in the incinerator.
yeah. All right. Where might the autopsy photographs be kept? In a family album? No. Any photographs or slides created during the autopsy are believed to be stored alongside the official autopsy documentation. Possible custodians include the Elvis Estate, BMH, or the Tennessee Department of Health. Maurice Elliott stated in September 1998, this is what, 22 years after he died.
Yes.
Within the previous year, the autopsy report had been transferred to an attorney representing the estate. Before that, he indicated the material had first been placed in a bank safe deposit box and later secured in the office of the hospital's director of medical records. In addition, a separate reliable source has claimed that copies of the photographic material exists outside both the hospital and the Presley family, reportedly in the possession of individuals within the broader medical community. The identities of those individuals have not been disclosed.
No, I
So
don't
you're
believe
telling
that.
me that there's two reports?
No, I don't believe that for 1 second.
No, I don't either.
Because if they did, they would have been sold a long time ago.
That's yeah. See, that's why when something like this is said, I just don't believe it. 50 years later,
No.
with all the books that have been written about his death.
They could have used that if it did exist. They could have used that material to dispel a shitload of rumors that have been going around,
Yeah,
and they never did. So,
yeah.
my personal take on it is Vernon had the stuff, Vernon destroyed it.
That's
Period. Done,
that's what
dusted.
I think. Let's see what his was there an official investigation in Elvis's death? I think we answered that.
No.
Um, well, the official the office of the Shelby County Medical Examiner did conduct a formal review. That's different than a criminal investigation.
Yes.
However, based on statements contained in an October 21st, 1977 press release, the process appears to have focused largely on evaluating pathology findings rather than pursuing a wide ranging death investigation. One notable statement in the release emphasized that an extensive search for illicit drugs was conducted, was conducted and that none were found. This framing implies that the presence of illegal substances was treated as the primary or perhaps sole indicator of wrongdoing, which, while overlooking the fact that legally prescribed medications can also be misused, interact dangerously, or contribute to fatal outcomes. There is little evidence that the review team approached prescription medications with the same level of scrutiny typically
Yes.
applied to street drugs. Instead,
Yes.
the process seems to have operated on the assumption that absent illegal substances, no deeper investigation effort was necessary.
Yes.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Until somebody later put two and two together and said that uh, prescribed medication can work against each other, and I believe that's why they went after Dr. Nick.
Questions have been raised about the inclusion of Jerry Francisco on the review panel, since his own conclusions regarding cause of death were among the matters effectively under evaluation. That's
Mm.
a good point. So Lacey's conclusion: although an official review occurred, available information suggests it functioned more as a confirmation of existing medical conclusions than as an independent, comprehensive investigation into the circumstances surrounding Elvis Presley's death.
Yes.
And here's the other thing too. This story that's out that Miss Pritchard talked about, that Vernon told her that he was murdered. Vernon had the power to and was tight enough with the police department to say, "I think he was murdered.
Yes.
Go further beyond this. I want to investigate it
Yes.
further," and they would have done it.
Yes.
So
For sure.
that to me that's bullshit by saying that Vernon gave it to somebody that really wasn't. Anyways, that's a that's a different channel. If you so I think that dispels that crap that Vernon thought he was murdered. Seriously,
Yes.
he may have thrown an offhanded comment. Oh, I don't know, maybe that was it. But if he really believed it,
He would have
trust me,
pursued.
yeah, Vernon would have. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I think outside of politicians, Vernon and Elvis probably had more power in that city than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were the driving financial. They were probably, well, not maybe not so much at that time, but they were the pre. I don't know. They were highly liked as citizens of that place. They thought of him as the as Memphis's boy. That's why he could go around Memphis anytime he wanted to. He wasn't harassed because he grew up there.
Yeah.
All right, if you like, I'm going. No, no, thank you. This is the Chat GPT did me the paraphrasing, and I dumbass like left that in there. Um,
And toxicology
all right.
reports
So
different
this,
active drug from the drug metabolite. For example, oxycodone in a tox screen would not only show oxy but morphine. Yes, you're right, Charlie. You're right. They wouldn't at that point in time have been able to pinpoint exactly what substance it was. It would have only been pinpointed from which family the substance came.
I'm going to read this. The investigation of the death of Elvis Presley by the Office of the Shelby County Medical Examiner has been completed. The death certificate has been signed and filed with the Memphis and Shelby County Health Department. The cause of death has been what's that word? Ascribed to hypertensive heart disease with coronary artery heart disease as a contributing factor. The autopsy report from the pathology department of Baptist Memorial Hospital, which includes the toxicology results, was completed October 10th or 18th, 1976,
October 18.
18th, and has
Yeah.
been reviewed. All of the findings have been discussed by the staff of the section of forensic pathology at the University of Tennessee Center for the Health Sciences. This includes three forensic pathologists and one toxicologist. The toxicology findings have also been discussed with two other, oh my God, all these freaking 27 letter words, toxicologists in the United States. It is it is the considered opinion of all the pathologist and two of the three toxicologists that there is no evidence that medication present in the body of Elvis Presley caused or made any significant contribution to his death. The third toxicologist was of the opinion that all medications worked in the therapeutic range and individually did not represent an overdose. All the toxicologists agreed that the decision of whether these medications played any role in death causation should be left to the forensic pathologist. All of the medications present had been prescribed by his doctors. There was an extensive search for illicit drugs, and they were not found to be present. The report this report will be filed in the office of the chief medical examiner at Memphis, Tennessee.
855 Madison Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee 38163, according to TCA 38-710. This report is a public document and can be obtained from the above office. The report of medical investigation contains no significant information. Page 2. To go on to Charlie's point, yes, I agree with you in that sense, Charlie. You've asked another question because that is where I said originally that the stomach contents would have come into more of shedding light here because we know that a lot of substances once they metabolize in the system they show up as something different,
Yeah,
but also the metabolic rate and the metabolic speed also differentiates according to what substance it is, according to whether the stomach was full or empty, and whether that substance was taken, how soon before death was the substance taken, because some of those substances continue to metabolize even after death has taken place. So, had we had the stomach contents to evaluate, we would have had a clearer indication out of those 14 different substances that were picked up in the samples. We would have had a clear indication as to how many of those 14 substances that they picked up were actually taken within a 24-hour period.
yeah. Sasha Rose, you're right. Yeah, Vernon was in a state of grief, and he could have considered all the meds Elvis was described as murder, not as and as someone purposely murdered Elvis. Donna's telling a whopper. Yeah, it's just it, if he did say it, he just said it like he just described. If he really believed and had suspicion that somebody could have murdered him, there would have been an investigation. There's
for
no
sure,
doubt.
for sure.
So that's signed by Dr. Francisco and Dr. Bill. So let me shrink that back down so we can see the rest. Two, three, four. I counted the pluses when I did this. All right, so there we go. So toxicology panel statement and a key omission. An additional point in the official press release deserves attention. One toxicologist stated that all detected medications were within therapeutic levels and that no single drug by itself constituted an overdose. Historically, however, the major question has never centered on whether Elvis ingested a massive amount of one specific substance. The central issue has always been whether multiple medications acting together could have produced a fatal combined effect, a
Yes,
concept
that's
commonly
also
known as
possible.
polypharmacy. And that happens all the
The
time.
time,
To
yes,
this day, it still happens with
yes.
people. I have. I mean, it's obviously that I've got some of my teeth missing, but that was all caused by a mismatch of drugs,
Mm.
prescriptions that I was taking. And I told the doctor, I said, a year ago my teeth were fine. All of a sudden they're starting to rot out. And so they did they stopped me on one started prescribing something else, but they did research on what I was taking because I told them, I said, it's got to be the prescriptions you're taking me because I sure as hell don't smoke crack, So I told them that. So they did, and they said that they did. I mean, I guess I could have sued them, but anyway,
But everybody knows that Elvis took a mirage of different
yeah,
medications
that,
together.
that's crap.
So to even assume that he'd taken an overdose of one specific medication would then imply purposeful, and it was not.
Yeah. What?
So
Oh, go ahead.
we left to the logical conclusion that yes, he took a multiple of medications, but as Charlie and I have already discussed, we don't know how many of those 14 substances that were picked up in his body were actually from medications that he had taken or ingested in the last 24 hours of his life, because certain medications can metabolize in the liver and the kidneys
Right.
up to 7 days after death. They
Right.
will still show up in the liver and kidneys. So, but what that just proves that at some point the medication, or in this instance, quote unquote, the drug was taken. It was taken by the person, and uh, it was processed by the body. But we cannot determine at which point they were taken because we don't know how
Yeah.
long they'd been stored in the liver and the kidneys. Had we had the stomach contents, we would have been able to narrow down how much of those substances were actually taken within the last hours. But we'll never know.
Yeah.
And to say that 14 different substances were found in his system, that automatically constitutes a drug overdose? No, that's incorrect. Because then people don't know how the body functions.
Right. Notably, the panel did not address this cumulative risk scenario. Instead, it emphasized only that no individual drug caused an overdose. This leaves open the strong possibility that death resulted from dangerous drug interactions, even if no single substance reached lethal concentration on its own.
We can't even assume that,
Right.
because he'd been taking medications since 1958. So he had a 19-year window over which his body could have easily built up a tolerance to some of those medications. You and I take maybe two or three of those pills. Those pills knock us out for 3 days, 4 days. Elvis takes three or four of those pills. They don't do him shit, because why? He's got an 18-year tolerance of that medication. So even taking that assumption is incorrect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just playing devil's
Yeah.
advocate
Yeah.
here.
That's the thing about this whole topic is that you got to play devil's advocate a lot with it. So but they take that, even if you leave out the illegal drugs, and we know by the toxicology reports that they weren't in his system. They're all prescribed medication, which is still what there's that fact, that group out there that likes to criticize the fact that Elvis, his drugs and all this kind of stuff. But they also don't take. They don't. First of all, they're talking out of their ass because they don't know anything about the whole situation. It's just like,
No,
they mocking him where he died, when he died, how he died, all that kind of stuff. But the people like us who know Elvis and know this and read these and study this stuff, and take the time to understand what was going on with him, we all realize that we know the truth of why he would do that. We knew his health problems. He would do anything. I can't imagine going through the pain that man must have been going through.
I
When you
mean,
talk about the blockages, and it just and to and it just happened. It didn't just happen the last 2 years of his life. It was his
no,
entire life.
no. I mean, like I said last week, I'm even surprised the guy managed to get out of bed, let alone go on stage for an hour.
When I see him in these concerts, like in Vegas or at 68, he was having those issues then.
Yeah,
And for to see him get up there and move around, that's some of these stars today, they'll cancel a concert almost for a freaking hangnail
yeah.
or
And
postpone
to
it or whatever.
and to elaborate on what Charlie's saying, those two, especially the two that he's mentioning there, Valium and Xanax, are both central nervous system depressants, right? But they both metabolize
Hmm,
as the same as the same as the same substance. When they're broken down and they metabolize into the system, they show up as the same thing.
yeah. So now, who cleaned Elvis's bedroom and bathroom, and why? This has been a little bit of a discussion we've had. Several individuals have offered differing accounts. I think he's got this cut and pasted for somewhere because that's always the way it starts off. Several individuals have offered different accounts. Now let's review them. Nancy Rook states that she and Aunt Delta cleaned both the bathroom and bedroom. According to Rooks, Delta urgently insisted they remove certain items from investigators before they arrived. Joe Esposito gives a different version. Here it comes.
But
You know
then
what?
again,
From now
be-
on, every time I hear the name Joe Esposito, just do that every time we say Joe Esposito.
but then again, I asked the question: what relevance does it have?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
has no relevance.
Well, well, Joe wants to make it have relevance. He writes that housekeepers had already remade Elvis's bed but left medications in place. Esposito says that okay, I'll stop it. Says that he, along with Al Strada and Billy Smith, gathered prescription drugs. Okay, where's my mouse? I lost my mouse. Um, eh, Billy Smith gathered prescription drugs and hypodermic needles, filling two grocery bags with pills, bottles, and related materials, which were then handed to Dr. Nikopoulos. He adds that the room looked unnaturally spotless once they finished. Now, what does that mean? So, what they're saying is it looked unnaturally spotless. Does that mean that the house cleaners weren't cleaning his room properly? And
No.
from what I understand it, Elvis was a neat freak.
Yes.
Anyway, we're talking about Joe Esposito.
And you see who he quotes here yet again, Bully.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I'm sure Bully would have mentioned it at some point by now.
Al Strada's not around anymore, is he?
Not as far as I know, no.
Did he? I don't know if he even wrote a book. Did he write a book? Was he part of
No, he
that?
didn't. He's one of the guys that never ever wrote a book or did any television. As far as I know, I'm speaking under correction,
We were
but
talking.
I don't think he wrote any books or did any PR work relating to Elvis after Elvis died.
We were talking about that last night in the movies, and there was somebody we mentioned too. If
Is
anybody
he still
remembers,
alive, Charlie?
yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
would assume so if you say he lives in Alaska.
yeah, he lives. Oh, for anybody that was part of the discussion last night, who was it we mentioned in the discussion on Zoom movie that had never written a book? Oh, he was supposedly a part of the Elvis by the Presleys production. That was if
Oh,
any,
he's still alive? Gee,
um,
he must be well into his 80s by now.
if you guys can remember that, that were anybody that was there last night, pop into the comment. So Esposito says that he was Al Strauss and Billy Smith. He adds that the room looked unnatural. Okay, we've said that. Another version attributes responsibility to. I need to come up with one for David Stanley.
I don't believe shit that this guy says. Do you ever see that program they did on what was it called? Unsolved Mysteries? That
Yeah,
program, Unsolved Mysteries.
I've got the video. Yeah,
Do you see the shit that David Stanley spoke in that thing?
yeah. I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything out of if they got the last name Stanley and they're from that DNA pot. I don't believe anything they say. Anything. Write a book about faith and then you turn around. Next thing you know, you're spewing venom.
Yeah,
I mean, come
yes,
on.
yeah.
I don't. Anybody that believes his shit about that. Another version attributes its responsibility to David Stanley, who has claimed that he removed drug-related items himself and that the room appeared clean when paramedics arrived. This claim
Oh, really?
conflicts. This
So
claim conflicts with the known arrival time since Stanley did not reach the upstairs suite before emergency personnel.
exactly, I was going to say, oh, so he had the presence of mind to go up there before the medical staff arrived to attend to Elvis. He had the presence of mind to go and remove stuff. Bullshit.
Because he was downstairs, right? When 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 they discovered Elvis down in the den at that time with a pool room with a
He
friend.
was supposed he was supposed to be there.
Wasn't there some? There was some. Yeah, was and then the person that was supposed to be upstairs
Ricky was as high as a kite,
and
being
he was
chased home
asleep.
by Al's daughter. Bully, we don't know where Bully Stanley was.
But one of Billy or David, one of them is now claiming that they're the ones that discovered Elvis.
And David's the one claiming now in the book that he was the one that
Man, what's it got? Surviving Elvis is a book coming out. What
he's
a
so
what an ominous, what a disrespectful title.
from the age of how old were they when
I think they
Vernon
were like
married their mother? They were like 7 or 8 years old. So
7 to
let's say
10 years old or something like that. Yeah.
for their whole life, Elvis supported their lazy asses, and then they wouldn't be either one of the three of them wouldn't be a speck of dust if it wasn't for Elvis. And now he has the balls to come out and bring out a book saying surviving Elvis like it was the most terrible thing on earth to do. But exactly as you previously stated, a couple of years ago, he writes a book on this brilliant faith that Elvis had and how he's praising Elvis for the religious person he was and all the good that he did. Now he's coming out with a book trashing Elvis.
David claimed that Rick was on duty first, and David came on after him. Yeah, he was supposed to. Yeah, he was, but he was down. He was supposed to be upstairs, but he was downstairs, right?
Who? Ricky?
No, Ricky was. I don't know. I'm confused about it now. So Ricky was the one that was supposed to have been up there, but they sent him
Yes.
home because he was too fucking high.
Yes.
David was downstairs, and he was supposed to replace Ricky.
Yes.
Never did.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Why not surviving my addiction? Exactly, CCAT. Yeah. Hey, so who was it made that comment? Let me go back here. Um, hey, Kim Gale. Let's see. I keep seeing her. I'm glad. Thanks for joining us too. It's nice to have your input. David says, "Oh yeah." Charlie says that about discovering Elvis. David says it, and then one paragraph later, he says Ginger discovered Elvis. Maybe they walked in hand in hand. Um,
Me. Well, there was speculation at the time that one of the Stanley boys were in a relationship with Ginger
yeah,
secretly.
I heard that too. Hmm. Elvis says 91. Hello, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. All right, so conclusion on about the cleanup. It's reasonable to assume that people present in the upstairs area participated in removing items, likely as an instinctive response to shock and fear. Exactly who did what and in what sequence remains unclear. Who ordered the cleanup? So we got different sources that identify different um, initiators. Ginger was supposedly had been in a relationship or had or they hooked up as they say now with one of the Stanley guys. I can't remember which one it was. So who Nancy Brooks says the directive came from out Delta, at Delta. That's what I've heard. Joe Esposito, boom boom boom, says he personally began removing. That's gonna stick in my head forever now. Says he personally began removing drugs. I kind of believe that. Colonel Tom Parker is quoted elsewhere as saying that evidence of Elvis's drug history needed to be eliminated as much as possible, though it is unclear whether this referred to physical items, public statements, or both. That and that, yeah, and that's yeah. I look at that both ways. It's protecting his financial investment, and or it could be protecting Elvis, one or the other. I'm sure there's a little bit of protecting Elvis himself, but I think the motive was the long term.
The motive was the financial part of it.
So conclusion on the motive. Someone clearly authorized or encouraged cleanup efforts, and the apparent goal was to eliminate visible signs of drug use. This suggests awareness that such evidence could be damaging. If Elvis had only been using medication strictly as prescribed and without concern, there would have been little incentive to remove anything. But then there's also a point of being excessive. So if you in his room there's bottles and bottles and bottles of prescriptions, I don't know what the laws were back then. Um, I mean, I got mixed feelings about them doing that. I'm glad they did it, and then I'm kind of glad, I'm kind of like pissed about the fact that they did it. I don't know how to, it's kind of I don't know. What do you think, Cam?
It,
I kind of go both ways.
in my opinion, um, okay, I'm going to go two sides of the fence here. The first hypothesis is I'm going to say this. If it had been a situation where Elvis could have received help and he would have survived,
Hmm.
then I would have said, yes, clean up the room during the process of them helping him and getting him back, right? But considering that he had not been able to receive help and it didn't help him at all, considering that they didn't even think, or did they possibly at that point already know what procedures were going to be taken with regard to medical investigations, etc., etc., etc. They must have had some kind of inclination because if they did not, if there was a possibility that medical examination would have taken place by the state, did they do it willingly, willing to take the chance that they could have possibly gotten into trouble for removing evidence or for altering a death scene? Or did they have prior knowledge to say that Vernon was controlling the situation as best he could and that the matter was going to be dealt with privately without any interference from authorities? If that is the case, then I could kind of understand why they would then clean up, because they would want to keep the situation as clean and as sterile as possible uh, in terms of credibility.
Well, Dr. Nick, just going off what CCAT just said, you know, Dr. Nick, I'm sure knew damn well he was over prescribing.
Yes.
So, and CCAT's got a point there of having his name on so many bottles. The look of it, like the first thing would be to investigators said, why is he being prescribed so much? Because
Mm,
the body, there's limitations in the medical field of how much you give to a person based upon weight and all that kind of stuff. All the different parameters of um, well, I step back. I was just thinking about this while you were saying what you were saying just now, Cam. If in Without the popularity aspect of it, and then who he was, if I came home and discovered my son passed out, dead, and his room filled with prescription drugs, he'd been having issues, but he had so many of them, and nothing illegal, but he was able to get more and more prescriptions, and the overprescribing was happening. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know whether to clean it.
or leave it.
My inclination would say, let's get these bottles out of here. That would be my first thought as a parent, as a parent, but as a logical person and a person that really wants to know what killed my son, I would leave it alone.
Mm.
But that's that. So
But you see, that's why I asked the
yeah.
question. That's why I asked the question. Did they know that Vernon was in control of the situation, i.e., that there was going to be no investigation from authorities?
Now, were they doing this? Were they doing this before the announcement that he died?
No, they had done this even before Dan Warlick and the medical response team returned to pick up the gear.
Yeah.
So this was
So maybe there was
this
still a wish saying that.
yeah,
He,
this was done this was done
that's right. Now I remember. Yeah.
prior to the prior to the declaration.
Yeah, Kevin. My
Maybe they did
talking
it
about
in the
talking about
hope that he was going to make it.
that's what I was just going to say next. But talking about this, and listen to what you said, Cam, and what some of the comments are. I like what Heather says. They should have just left it alone and just let them come in there, and you know, in the long run, w- in my opinion, right now, I think this whole situation is, what's the point whether they got rid of him or not?
Yes.
They're going to discover the amounts in his body when they do the toxicology.
Anyway, yes.
And the bottles that are sitting on what's it going to do? The only criminal thing that's there is it was that well, he wound up. I think he wound up not guilty in the court case, but he lost his license in the court. There was a court case of him as far as, I don't know if it was a criminal case or what. I can't remember. I gotta look that up. It's in his book. So anyway, that's another subject. Was Vernon protecting Dr. Nick? I think every
That's
decision that Vernon made in my opinion, was for Elvis. I,
yes.
and I would think that given Vernon and how he felt about all the prescriptions, I don't. I think Vernon would. I think Vernon probably would have been extremely pissed at Doctor Nick,
Yes,
and not just that day. And
in
just,
general.
but what's Vernon going to do? Like they always say, you can't tell Elvis what to do.
Exactly.
Nobody could tell him what to do. He did what he wanted to do.
Exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, too, Dr. Nick himself said that in his opinion, uh, had Dr. Nick, not come onto the scene when he did, the possibility of Elvis having passed earlier was very big.
Yeah.
So, what do you do? Do you shoot the man for overprescribing the medication? Or do you thank the man for prolonging your son's life?
Well, I think you thank him for helping him relieve his pain, whatever you could, in that aspect.
Yes,
Um, and whatever Doctor Nick did as far as prescribing, I look at two different aspects. I think he did it because he cared for the man,
yes,
but second of all, he knew what he was doing was wrong.
exactly.
He's the one that's going to have to pay the ultimate price on that. Well, let's take that back. He's the one that has to pay the ultimate price for the drugs, but Elvis is the one who paid the ultimate price at all. Not that he died because of all the overprescribing, but based upon the autopsy, the drugs didn't cause his death. So
Yes, and
think about it.
here's the other end to the conundrum, right? The other end to the argument is this. If Vernon wanted to hold Dr. Nick accountable for the massive amounts of medications that were prescribed, right? Why did Vernon not then, if Vernon felt so strongly about it, why did Vernon not have Elvis committed? For the same reason that Dr. Nick could not control Elvis's intake, because Elvis would overridden him anyway.
Yeah,
So
back in
on
those
the
days to get somebody committed,
they
much
would have had yeah, they would have had to prove he's crazy, and they wouldn't have been able to
no.
do that. So on the one hand, he wants to shoot Dr. Nick with a gun, but at the same time, he doesn't want to turn the same gun onto himself.
Yeah, the Sea Cats got a good point. They were all in over their heads.
Yes, yes. I mean, and we know that for a fact. We know Dr. Nick said yes, he had a hard time controlling what was going in and what was going out. He said, but he had greater control of the situation in Memphis than he did anywhere else, because if Dr. Nick said no, and we all know this public record, if Dr. Nick said no, if a prescription wasn't filled, he'd get on the plane and fly to Vegas, go
Yeah,
to Dr. Denham,
yeah,
or he'd go,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
or he'd go to Dr. Hoffman, or he'd go to Doctor Whoever, buy him a Cadillac, a house, whatever the hell. If he wanted a bag of whatever, he would get it if Dr. Nick said no. I mean, it was proven in Baptist Memorial Hospital. Elvis sat in there, Dr. Nick went in their bathroom, and he found a whole bag of medication that he had no idea of where it came from. He didn't write prescriptions for. So even within Memphis, if Dr. Nick said no, Elvis would have found somebody else to do it. So was the man correct in everything he did from a legal perspective? No. But my question is this: what would you and I have done in a situation like that to control a man like that?
yeah.
Because, like Sonny and Red often said, he wasn't a stupid man. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Hmm.
But like Red said himself, how do you protect somebody from themselves when they that far into it? When you tell them you have a problem, and they are so psychologically, emotionally, physically dependent on the substances that they are using every single day, and they say no, they are not, they don't have a problem. When you have a choice, either you let it go, or I'm out on the bones on my ass here. It's like Sonny and them said. They had more chance of helping him, being around him, than what they did if they voiced their opinion and they were kicked out. Then you can't help. So it's what do you do?
Yeah. So why were syringes still found afterward? Dan Warlick reported finding a syringe in Elvis's office and another in the bedroom, even though he arrived after the upstairs area had supposedly been cleaned. Separately, Ulysses Jones stated that two large syringes were beside Elvis's body during resuscitation efforts. When Jones later returned upstairs with Warlick, he noticed those syringes were gone. It is unknown whether the syringes Warlick found were the same ones Jones originally saw. What seems unlikely is that household staff simply relocated syringes from the floor to visible locations elsewhere.
No, they would have been thrown away.
Yeah, were syringes present in the bathroom? Um, so what is if they found him next to his body? What would that imply? Elvis had injected himself with something. Multiple accounts suggest that they were. One source describes aides collecting used syringes and pills from the carpet while attempting to place Elvis on a stretcher. David Stanley states that syringes were lying around Elvis's body and refers to injections of Demerol. Stanley also says he picked up syringes and pills before paramedics arrived. Another
Yeah,
source claims someone had removed all syringes and pills from the bathroom. I have no doubt there was a cleanup done. Some kind
yes.
of
Uh,
disturbing of the evidence type of deal.
yes, Helen, she ordered the cleanup after Elvis was taken to the hospital.
Yeah, Nancy Brooks. Yeah, she talked about in her book. Conclusion on the syringes. While numerous statements indicate syringes were present, no reliable evidence establishes what substances, if any, were inside them.
Exactly.
Were bathroom photographs and investigator notes stolen? Warlick states that he took instant photographs of the bathroom scene and also made handwritten notes. His photographs later disappeared from the official files but were reportedly produced years later by the medical examiner in response to a subpoena.
No,
Warlick's car was later burglarized and a small notebook containing his Graceland autopsy notes was stolen.
I don't believe that they were ever subpoenaed because if they were, they would have still been in circulation today.
I gotta check what my dogs are barking at. I am home alone. And that Macaulay Culkin's nowhere near.
Sally, to answer your question, at that point in time, in my opinion, Dr. Nick was the only person that really knew what was going on within Elvis's system because he'd been treating Elvis for so long. Um, no other doctor besides Dr. Nick would have invested the time and effort into really getting to the bottom of what's causing his medical issues. All the other doctors, like known ones, for example, Dr. Gannon, Dr. Hoffman, all those were Dr. Feelgood. Elvis could have said, I want a box of whatever, and they would have given it to him. So, to answer your question, why didn't Dr. Nick walk away? Because I believe if Dr. Nick walked away, Elvis would have died a
Mm,
lot sooner.
mm, I agree.
And I was one of the people in the past before reading Dr. Nick's book. I was one of the first people to throw Dr. Nick under the bus. But after
Yeah,
reading his
I did
book
too.
and really coming to the bottom of the issues that he was trying to help Elvis with, I really take my hat off to that guy because he tried for a long time.
I think he became a scapegoat
Yes,
for that
unfortunately,
matter of the prescription drugs.
yes.
I, you know, if
And,
I was in his shoes, I
I
can't
would have
say I wouldn't have done the same thing.
exactly. And you can even take it. You could even bring it to today's time. Why does nobody go after Dr. Gannon? Why does nobody go after Dr. Hoffman with the same vigor that they went after Dr. Nick for? Why? Because Dr. Gannem and Dr. Hoffman were only there as
Yeah.
drive-through doctors.
Yeah.
Dr. Nick was the only permanent invested doctor, where the rest weren't.
Yeah.
They were there at the drop of a hat, at the pickup of a phone call, and they were willing to give anything just to say, oh, I gave Elvis what he wanted. Whereas, in my opinion, Dr. Nick was the only one that at times stood up and said, no, you're not going to get it. But at the same time, he knew if he said no, Elvis would get it from somewhere else. And I think he had a doggone hard time trying to treat Elvis for his known conditions, especially not always knowing what was coming in from other doctors. It must have been an absolute fucking nightmare trying to get to the bottom of some of this guy's issues while knowing that, oh, he's just come back from Vegas, or he's sent whoever to Vegas quickly to get a bag of whatever. It must have been an extreme nightmare. So, did he get a raw deal? In my opinion, yes, he did. Was everything he did right? No. But we have the benefit of 2020 vision today. A lot of his medical problems that he suffered with at that time weren't even known within the medical field. So, what were they doing? Trial and error. Try this medication. Okay, this one doesn't work. Okay, let's try that one. Okay, that one doesn't work. Let's try a combination of A and B. Let's see if that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, was it right? No. But in my opinion, given the amount of medical issues that he was faced with, had Dr. Nick not been there, he would have surely died a lot sooner.
Yeah, Charlie's got a good point too. None of the other doctors even consulted with him about what they were doing. How did,
Exactly.
yeah, the doctors, well, no, yeah.
Exactly.
So the conclusion: Warlick's notebook appears to have been stolen. His photographs eventually surfaced within official custody. And my guess is those pictures have been destroyed since then because they would be out somewhere.
Uh huh.
Somebody was a Jesus. This is a gold mine here.
Mm hmm.
Suicide or murder? No evidence on either one.
No.
So the official cause of death, as Jerry Francisco announced, Elvis died from cardiac arrhythmia with hypertensive and coronary heart disease listed as contributing factors. Parliament,
Which in it, which in itself is a stupid statement to make, because you're saying Elvis died because his heart was beating erratically. Okay, almost everyone dies from a cardiac arrhythmia, right? But the question is this: what caused the arrhythmia? That's the question. Basically, what Dr. Francisco is saying in that statement, hiding behind all medical jargon, he's saying that Elvis died because his heart stopped beating. Duh. Am I right or wrong, Charlie? That's basically what he's saying within that medical jargon. He's saying Elvis died because his heart stopped.
the lines got blurred for Dr. Nick. Love, loyalty, money, take your pick. But it was his decision to do what he did. So problems
Yeah,
with the cardiac arrhythmia. Say that name. Cyril Wecht. Cyril
correct.
Wecht has pointed out that arrhythmia cannot be diagnosed from an autopsy alone.
Yes,
Irregular heart rhythm can only be confirmed in a living person. Correct. I
yes,
know that because I have AFib. Therefore, labeling arrhythmia as the cause of death without clinical data is scientifically unsound.
yes,
Becht argues that stating cardiac arrhythmia merely means the heart stopped, which is true of all deaths, without explaining why it stopped.
exactly.
Yeah, Eric Muirhead, who supervised the autopsy, reportedly shared this skepticism. Noel Florendo stated that autopsy findings did not justify an arrhythmia diagnosis. So the conclusion is cardiac arrhythmia alone is not an adequate cause of death unless the underlying trigger is identified.
Exactly. If they can say that X happened, which led to Y being the rhythmic event, they would have to say that X caused Y, and because of X, why happened. Then they can use arrhythmia with whatever finding as a contributory factor, but they can't state that an irregular heartbeat alone is the reason for death, because something has to cause that erratic heartbeat.
Yeah. Um, so the Valsalva maneuver. Some investigators propose that Elvis strains during a bowel movement, triggering a fatal physiological reflex. While theoretically possible, this mechanism is extremely difficult to prove and does not adequately explain other findings.
Exactly.
Additionally, the theory conflicts with observations suggesting Elvis was alive on the floor for some period rather than dying instantly. So that's one. Polypharmacy, multiple drug effect.
But then I have a question here to Charlie, if he would possibly know. Would the Valsalva maneuver necessarily mean instant death, Charlie, or not?
Good question. They need to get you out of AFib within minutes. Yeah, I went through the electroconversion twice to set my heart rhythm back to regular, and then tried three ablations. They didn't work. I'm one of the very few people where ablation didn't work, because what's happening is the node that sets the electrical impulse that's throwing my heart irregular, it comes and goes. It's in a spot where it's active, not active, active, not active, and they can't get to it because it's buried under a piece of flesh inside my heart. That sounds it sounds it sounds like a. I'm not exactly describing dinner here, guys.
Oh, okay. So if I understand you correctly, Charlie, it doesn't necessarily guarantee instant death.
So, several respected toxicologists and laboratories concluded that numerous sedative, hypnotic, and pain relieving drugs were present. Many were within therapeutic and borderline ranges. The combined pharmacological effect must be considered. Such combinations could produce coma and death. Well, yeah. Hospital pathologists reportedly concluded that death resulted from multiple drug ingestion. Final conclusion. The most scientifically supported explanation is that Elvis died from the cumulative effects of multiple medications, rather than from a single overdose, a single arrhythmia, suicide, or foul play.
Okay, but then how can they say that? How can they say that the hospital assumes that he died as a cumulative effect of the medication, whereas the toxicology reports that were taken at autopsy are not substantial enough to prove none of the levels that were found within the body were at toxic levels. So how can they say that polypharmacy was a result or was a cause of death if the toxicology evidence that was submitted fails to support that? How do they get to that conclusion if the toxicology report cannot, beyond a shadow of a doubt, prove that? Because the toxicology reports say that none of the substances within his system that were found were at extremely toxic levels. Most of them were at therapeutic levels. So, how can they then say that his death was a result of the cumulative effect of multiple medications? Because my common understanding would mean to say that if that were the case, majority of those substances found within the body would have had to be at toxic or higher levels, to which the medical evidence shows that none of the substances were at toxic or higher than toxic levels. They were all within therapeutic dose range. So there's a contradiction.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going here?
No, yeah, yeah, we just got through reading where they in the actual report from Dr. Francisco. We just read that. Where he talks about it not being from the drugs. I mean, from the
Yes,
pharmacy. He talks
yes,
about being natural.
yes. And there you go. You see that Charlie says it as that's my understanding. You can't see an abnormal heartbeat after a person dies because the person would have to be hooked up to a monitor so that you could see the irregular heartbeats and then take action to stabilize the heart rhythm. And then if the person dies, then they can say that the person suffered a cardiac arrhythmia and then died because of it. But they would only have been able to pick that up had Elvis been alive and hooked up to a heart machine. Whereas I say this is where it gets back to my point I made a couple of weeks ago. I think Elvis and his father died of exactly the same thing. They had Vernon hooked up to heart machines, and they were aware that his heart was erratic at times, and he suffered a cardiac standstill, and that was the cause of his death. But his cardiac standstill was brought on by an erratic heartbeat. He suffered a cardiac arrhythmia. And because of his arrhythmia, his heart stood still and he passed away. And they said, is it correct to then say that Vernon passed from a heart attack? And the hospital representative said, no. Mr. Presley suffered a cardiac standstill. A heart attack and a cardiac standstill are two different things. And this is where, for me anyway, it's a genetic thing. So I am saying that the possibility that Elvis had the same underlying heart problem that his father had is very, very, very possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
Well,
they say that sons generally inherit the medical problems on the father's side, although they sometimes do from the mother's side, depending on the strength of the gene. But majority of the time, the sons will inherit medical issues
mm,
from the father's side of the family. So that's why I say that the possibility of Elvis and Vernon having the same underlying heart condition, and unfortunately for Elvis, he got it from both sides
yeah,
because his mother also didn't have a very healthy
yeah,
heart, and
and
neither did her family.
yeah, and you look at his family tree too, where and I learned a lot of this, and I don't know how much I'll learn in Dr. Tennant's book too, but like in Sally's book, before she talks a lot about the at the beginning about the family line and how there were some that were cousins, married cousins, and then just the it just developed a health issues because of that.
Yeah.
When you have that type of breeding, for lack of a better term.
Mm.
Um, so not only did he inherit it from his mom and dad, he inherited it from the people before them. It just moved right on down the line, the chain. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
sorry. I'm just reading certain comments here.
If he gave
Um,
wasn't it picked up on Elvis, then I can't understand that if they knew about all this other conditions. Um, I don't know if they really understood his other conditions at the time.
no,
A lot of them,
no,
and they back then they were just try this, try this, try this type of
yeah.
type of deal. That's my gut feeling on it all. Is that
I think unfortunately, sorry to jump in here. I think unfortunately, um, Vernon had suffered multiple heart attacks
mm,
prior. So they had already the presence of knowledge to know that when Vernon was admitted to hospital, they knew that his heart was an issue and he would have automatically been hooked up to heart machines to monitor the state of his heart.
Hmm.
But with Elvis, they didn't necessarily know.
All right. Well, that's where I've gotten to the point in Decoded. That was quite a bit. 2 hours spent on that, with exception of a few other discussions. But so I've got the first chapter from. I mean, it's chapter two. We covered. We started. We talked about the first chapter where it introduced the the, the characters, I guess you want to call it, the people involved. So chapter two it picks it up from the call from Joe. Right. God, now can't.
Yes, Kathleen, you're right. Lisa did.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, she had the same problem. She also passed from a bowel obstruction, which also led to erratic heartbeat, etc., etc., etc. So was it an inherited thing? Most definitely.
Yeah, I
But
certainly
but
hope
un,
Riley and the twins recognize that possibility for them.
but unfortunately, Lisa's was hastened by her bowel surgery that she had.
Hmm.
And was she told about those? Was she told about those underlying dangers? I'm sure she was. But
That was maternal grandparents, Don, myself. Yeah,
it was a chance she took.
yeah. Because Patsy Presley. Well, let's see. No, Vernon's was it Vernon's brother that married Patsy's a double cousin. I can't. I can't even wrap my head
Yes,
around to try to figure it around. Her.
two brothers married two
Thank
sisters.
you. That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah.
Yes,
So she's a double cousin. She's got Smith blood and Presley blood.
yes,
Where Miss Pritchett's only got some Presley blood, but she's a Pritchett. So um but yeah, I
yes.
mean somewhere,
But
and that wasn't like a cousin marrying a cousin. That was
no,
just it's like my two brothers, their first marriages were two sisters. So it was the
yes,
same scenario.
yes,
Um but neither one of them are around anymore.
yes. Thank you, Charlie.
Vester married Gladys's sister. Yeah.
Yes, and vice
No, that's
versa.
was it. Vester. Yeah, Vester was Patsy's daughter. I mean, father, right? No.
I don't know. You're gonna have to pull up the family
All right.
tree to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. That's another topic. We'll do that on another 1.5 hour discussion about Vernon and Vester. Anyway, so chapter two, the call from Joe. So this won't take too long because the chapter is really not that long, but it's just interesting. This book's a good book. I've kind of I won't say read it, but I've gone through it and just went through parts that kind of caught my eye. So I can't wait to get through this book. You guys are going to enjoy this. Yeah, Vester was Vernon's brother, and then Vester's wife was Gladys's sister.
Yes. Can you imagine the nightmare of Elvis having to explain all his cousins?
Well, my dad was one of 16 kids. He was the 15th of 16 kids, and he was sitting there telling me one day what their names were. And he had two, he had, he had two. They were twins. The sisters. There were two sets of twins in those 16. Now, some of them were born at a time where there was the influenza and stuff like that. So some of them didn't live past, not much long past birth, and then some died at early ages due to, you know, diseases that occurred, pandemics. But anyway, um, he had my dad's name was Bedford, and he had a brother named Ledford, and then he had twin sisters named Mincy and Tinsy. So, and then he's going through this. I can't even remember some other names. But then I said, "Well, what's your oldest brother's name?" He goes, "Oh, that's Robert." I go, "What'd they do? Figure Robert was going to be the only normal name they gave, and they're going to name everybody after a plant somewhere or something?" You know, I just laughing. Um, but
If
yeah,
I'm not
he was born the same year as Elvis was born, and he was born and raised in Tennessee. And that whole scenario of Elvis's tree, of his DNA, pro, whatever you call it, the ancestry is similar. It's not the same line, obviously, but it's similar to what Elvis's was because he grew up in the same type of culture, the same type of environment, the same kind of, some cousins married cousins. It's just the way it was back then, and there were. I'm sure that some of the health problems I have developed occur from somewhere along in my family line.
yeah,
I
if I'm
think
not
I just
mi-
want to know which relative of mine, because I've never seen a picture of a relative of mine that went bald. I want to know where the fuck I got that from.
if I'm not mistaken, one of Gladys's brothers died early. I think he was 32 when he passed away.
Yeah. I need to read her book again after I finish Tenets and kind of do a comparison because, from what I understand, she relied upon Tenet's book quite a bit.
Mm.
All right. So, chapter two, The Call from Joe. And I would say Joe is probably, but I don't know. I won't do that anymore. The call from Joe. Even before our funeral home received formal confirmation, this is the author writing, that he would oversee the arrangements. Preparations had already begun behind the scenes. R.M. Max Snow, the manager of the Memphis Funeral Home, part of the Service Corporation International Art Network, took immediate steps to locate a suitable casket for Elvis Presley. His first instruction was for me to retrieve the family's prior records so he can confirm the exact model used for Gladys in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
Funeral homes maintain meticulous records so the information was easy to access. Hello, Banjo Paul. Nice to see you. Nice to see your name up there. Once we identified the details, Max began contacting other funeral homes within our corporate chain. Out of roughly 450 affiliated locations nationwide, he reached out to about a dozen before locating a casket that closely matched the one used for Elvis's mother. It was in a storage unit in a funeral home, Han Cook Funeral Home in Oklahoma City, a high-end, silver-plated, seamless copper model that had long since been discontinued. Max was clearly proud of the found. The manufacturer had gone out of business years before, making discovery even more remarkable. At that point, no one in the Presley family had formally discussed arrangements with us. Still, based upon my experiences with them over the years, I believed strongly that they would favor continuity, especially where family tradition is concerned. Legally, the responsibility for final decisions would rest on Vernon. Elvis and Priscilla were divorced, and, and unless written instructions existed stating otherwise. Vernon had authority over the arrangements, considering the exceptionally close bond between father and son, a relationship that deepened profoundly after Elvis's passing. It seemed
After
clear to
Gladys's passing.
ultimately make the decisions. What's that?
After Gladys's passing.
Yeah. What did I
You
say?
said you said after Elvis's passing.
After, okay. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
When Max asked whether Vernon would approve of the casket selection, I told him I believed he would. The Presley family placed enormous importance on tradition, and the style chosen years earlier to Gladys likely held symbolic meaning. I suspected Vernon would want that legacy continued. Without
Mm-hmm.
waiting for direct approval, I contacted a friend, Chuck Stone, who operated a Memphis based charter service. I asked him how quickly he could dispatch a plane to Oklahoma City to retrieve the casket. Though he couldn't guarantee an exact departure time due to other commitments, he believed it would be delivered to Memphis by early Wednesday morning. Trusting his reliability, I authorized the transport. That's less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that's fast.
That's amazing. Later that evening, around 7:30, I received a call from Joe Esposito, Elvis's longtime road manager. He formally confirmed that Memphis Funeral Home would handle the burial. Realistically, ours was the only facility in Memphis equipped to manage a service of that magnitude. We were the city's largest funeral home and had access to additional personnel and resources through our national affiliates if necessary. You're right, CCAT. The best for the best. Speaking on behalf of the family, Joe provided verbal authorization to retrieve the body and proceed with embalming. He informed me that hospital officials had been notified I would arrive to claim the remains. Without that coordination, access to the autopsy suite would not have been possible. With the formalities completed, preparations moved forward to bring Elvis Presley to our facility on Union Avenue, where he would be readied for public viewing and burial.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after news of Elvis' passing, after it spread, it became evident that Memphis Funeral Home would likely oversee the arrangements. Colonel Parker and Max Snow appointed me as funeral director. I don't understand why Colonel Parker would have any involvement in the decisions made for
Mm.
this funeral.
Makes no
I had
sense.
worked unless he was asked to.
By who?
Maybe Vernon or Joe and him were pretty damn close, weren't they?
Mm.
I had worked with the Presley family on prior occasions and had earned their confidence. That existing trust mattered. In our profession, the deceased is not truly the client. The family is. The responsibility of a funeral director is to care for those left behind, to guide them through shock, grief, and countless urgent decisions. Typically, services are held within 3 days of the death. That means everything logistics, preparation, emotional support must be handled swiftly and carefully. In this case, however, the normal pressures would be multiplied beyond imagination. Elvis Presley was not simply a private citizen, he was a global figure. The world's media would descend upon Memphis. Every decision would be scrutinized. Yet, despite the magnitude of the moment, we would still have only 3, perhaps 4 days at most, to carry out everything with dignity and precision. And time was already slipping away. After several meetings to coordinate immediate plans, I retreated briefly to my office for a moment of personal reflection. Grabbed a quick snack, washed it down with a soft drink, and tried to ready myself. The pace of events had been relentless. I wanted to slow down, but there was no such luxury. If anything, I needed to sharpen my focus for what lay ahead. They did this thing in less than 48 hours altogether, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Freaking amazing.
Mm.
Over the years, members of our staff have occasionally speculated about what it would be like when Elvis eventually passed away and our funeral home was called upon to handle the service. Back then, it had felt like a distant possibility. He was still relatively young. I remember once remarking that even if he lived another 15 or 20 years, he would still be far from old age. The idea that he was gone at just 42 seemed unreal. In the privacy of that moment, I struggled with the shock of it all. You imagine just you're a normal, you're really a normal business catering to normal people, non-famous people as a whole. I mean, they may have catered to some others, but when you get the call for probably what one of the biggest funerals ever to happen, at least in the states, that's got to be over freaking whelming.
Yeah, and you know the crazy thing about it is like that in itself hits home hard for me because I at this stage of my life I've outlived Elvis by 3.5 years. So when I look at it like that,
Mm.
it makes me realize that wow, 42 is actually very, very, very young.
Yeah, I mean, I 50. Let's go back. Let's just say 50. Well, he died when I was 19, so I've outlived him almost 50 years.
Mm, it's crazy.
Mm. Those of us who followed his career closely had noticed troubling signs in recent years. There were concerns, yes, but nothing that truly prepared us for how quickly the end would come. During our
Mm,
first full professional meeting after Joe Esposito formally confirmed the death, one fact remained clear. We had no direct guidance yet from the family. With no firm direction, we relied on experience and instinct. We knew
mm-hmm,
immediately that this would not be an ordinary service.
mm-hmm.
We would be international in scope. And that's a good business right there that does that. They can anticipate what's going to happen instead of
Yes.
sitting back, twiddling their thumbs, waiting. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Waiting for every instruction to come, and that's probably why, luckily that there was nobody else in Memphis to do it. I think that gave Vernon a lot of ease too, because let's be honest, it must have been an absolute logistical nightmare.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole thing,
You know,
everything. You think about the flowers. Still to this day, it's the most flowers ever ordered in one day.
yeah,
You know,
the whole city sold out of
yeah,
flowers.
they had to ship them in. Um, and then the logistics of the traffic control of the people, those lines, the streets. I just know that when I got there, I was only there for. I got there at almost 11 o'clock at night. The night he died, 10 or 11 o'clock. I stayed the next day. The heat was unbearable, and then it got to the next night, and it was right after, not long after, those two girls were killed. That car drove into the crowd and killed those two girls. I didn't see it. I heard the sirens and everything, and I was standing there with the person I was with, and I was 19. I just married. I just found out the day before that we were going to have a kid. I
Yeah, and
couldn't
then
do. I cut.
get on your motorcycle and you ride to Memphis, like, hey, you want
Yeah,
to be
I
a
know.
father? Okay, bye.
Yeah, I know. And so I did. I rode it to Memphis, and then I'm standing there, and there was one really nice lady. I was 19. I think she was like in her 40s, or she'd been 30s or 40s. She saw Elvis back in the 50s there in Memphis. She'd been there, all this time, and we talked. We would go swap, going to get water and stuff like that back and forth, and she kind of looked at me because I told her that my wife had told me the day before. She goes, "Where's your wife?" I go, "Well, she's at home." And she kind of looked at me. She goes, "You left her?" And as we were, eventually, it was just. I thought, I better go home, or I'll be paying child support instead of raising a child. So I did. I went home, but it was all before that. But by then, the point I was getting to was the streets were jammed already. By the time I got there, that was not 3:30 to that was at 6 and 7, 8 hours later. And fortunately, the smartest thing I did was going on the dumbest thing I did was going on a motorcycle, because back then the back roads, you better hope you can make it to the next gas station without a tank of gas on a motorcycle. And I did. I barely made it to one. And then so that was good when I got to Memphis, because it enabled me to weave in between traffic or to get to the spot I want. And I parked a motorcycle. I just pulled it up right there where we're standing. I
Mhm.
didn't park it anywhere. I had it right there when I was standing. And then when I left, I got on it and left. Then they did the showing. Then they started the showing. I never got, I wasn't interested in going through that. I didn't want to do
I
that.
mean, even those crowds, the police had a hard time. Can you imagine if there were riots that broke out? They damn lucky they didn't have any riots break out.
That's a good point. I talked about this before. I'm glad you reminded me. Everybody was cordial.
Mm,
When you get in a crowd, it's
luckily.
like 90 degrees, 80 to 90 degrees. The humidity level, if you've ever been in Memphis, it is freaking muggy. It is hot and it's muggy in August. So prepare for when we go to the 50th. But so you get irritable, and where you gonna go? They had porta johns put out, but there were long lines for those. And then the businesses, most businesses would say you can't use my bathroom, but the businesses were allowing people to use their bathrooms.
Mm.
And then people had different groups, and they would always go out to get something to eat or water or whatever. You didn't have, and they'd bring everybody back so you wouldn't lose your spot where you were standing. And that's a great point, that it wasn't pushing shoving. What it was people passing out. There was a lot of medical help.
Yeah.
That was scary to see some people passed out, and they put them out on the Grayson lawn, and they were feeding them, giving them water and fanning them. And
Because you can even see on the footage that is available where the sound is. I mean, the policeman had a hard time. I mean, trying to stop people from scaling the wall and
yeah,
all those kind. So they did have a hard time as it is. But thank God they didn't have any riots because they wouldn't have been able to cope with it.
yeah. Years earlier, during casual conversations about the inevitable day when Elvis would pass, I had suggested that a public viewing or service might require a venue much larger than a traditional chapel. The Mid South Coliseum, which seating for roughly it was 11,000, had once seemed a logical option. The Cook Convention Center, though smaller, was another possibility. Privately, I even imagined that, weather permitting, an outdoor service at the Liberty Bowl. At that moment, however, speculation gave way to reality. Decisions had to be made quickly. The world was watching, and the Presley family would soon look to us for guidance. So now that I'm officially been appointed to direct the service, a part of me, the showman's instinct, I suppose, still imagined what it would look like in a vast public venue. The Liberty Bowl had always seemed fitting in scale. The Mid South Coliseum was another possibility. And the Cook Convention Center, though sizable, felt like a distant third. But imagination and reality are two things. I understood the risks. If something went wrong at a stadium or arena, the consequences would be catastrophic. Ain't that right? Not
Hmm.
just personally, but professionally. Managing security at a traditional funeral is one matter.
Mm.
Attempting it at a massive venue filled with emotionally overwhelmed fans would be an entirely different undertaking.
Yes.
Rock and roll audiences are passionate in the best of circumstances. At the funeral of their idol, emotions could easily spill beyond control. We just witnessed that recently with Ozzy Osbourne.
Yes.
In truth, there was some relief in knowing that the final decision did not rest with me. The responsibility belonged to Vernon and those close in the family. My long held reasoning for a large public service had always been simple. Elvis did not belong solely to Memphis or even to his family. He belonged to his fans around the world. If anyone would have wanted as many people as possible to pay their respects, I believe it would have been Elvis himself. At the same time, I would have been naive not to recognize the professional implications. Successfully managing an event of such magnitude would inevitably draw national attention.
Hmm.
I think that's a good time to spot. We're 2.5 hours. I've still got, this is only a third of this chapter. We could go wind up going another hour and a half. It's up to you guys. It's late for you, Cam.
I don't mind.
Yeah. We could go a little bit longer if you guys want. Oh, actually, if they don't want to, they could. No, they just click off. You have my permission to leave now.
Okay, Kathleen, thanks for popping in.
All right, Kathleen. Thanks a lot. All right, so let's go just a little bit further. Later that afternoon, as six of us sat around the conference table reviewing logistics, I quietly calculated the collective experience in that room. Between us, there was well over a century of professional knowledge. Still, there were ethical boundaries to respect. I'm just kind of, I'm paraphrasing everything. The Funeral Directors Code does not allow us to dictate major decisions. It was not our role to propose grand venues or elaborate plans. Unless invited to do, our responsibility was to listen and to serve. During that meeting, we did not yet know whether Elvis had left specific instructions. Only later that evening did Joe Esposito and Vernon confirm that he had not. No written wishes, no detailed plans. The responsibility for every decision rested completely on his father.
Well, at, at this point, I don't know where it was. It was something I saw recently, but apparently it was Vernon that said to Elvis on the 3rd of March that, hey, you need to sign your last will and testament.
Hmm.
And Elvis was like, okay, what the hell, and signed it. So,
And Ginger was
thank,
a witness.
yes, thank God Vernon did pressure him to do it. Can you imagine the shitstorm had he not
It
signed
would
it?
have to go into probate and all that stuff, of course. Yeah.
Whoa, that would have been a shitstorm of epidemic proportion.
So, and with that, the direction of the king's final farewell would be determined by the family. So, in the meeting, they struggled to stay focused on the details. My thoughts kept drifting elsewhere, back to North Memphis, where Elvis and many of us had grown up. In those days, it was working class neighborhood. People, labor. I think that's why, I think it's cool to think this, because so many people called Elvis a recluse. They
Mm,
said he was a recluse. But you know what? In all of his homes that he lived in California and in Palm Springs and specifically mainly Memphis, he could get out and drive around and people didn't b- bother him.
people didn't care. Yeah,
And
people.
Memphis, it was like, hey, it's Elvis, man. I haven't seen him in a few years, type of deal. It's like he grew up there. He knew the people. It's
Yeah.
not like these people that knew him before he became famous all of a sudden going to be drooling out of their mouths and screaming, it's Elvis. It's different. It's just a buddy that they know, or a friend they know, or a family person, or just a person in their city, and they were proud of him.
Mm.
Memphis was proud of Elvis.
Oh, for sure. Okay, Charlie, take it easy. Thanks for popping in.
Poor
Charlie
buddy.
said he's bowing out. He's too much pain.
Yeah. All right, hey,
He's
Charlie. Thanks
going
a lot again. We'll
he's
see you
going
real
to
soon.
he's going to follow on the comments and listen to us ramble. Yeah, but I don't believe he was a recluse at all. I think
No.
that's one of the reasons why he spent most of his time in Memphis, because he could go out without being mobbed. Yeah, I'm sure people would stop by, and but it's like you said, it wasn't like the whole of Memphis cleared out and a whole new city of people moved in after he became famous. They didn't know who the hell he was. Like, oh my god, no.
Well, you think about it too. You think about that, the class, the rock and roll class, the country class, however you want it, that came out of that time period from Memphis, where they knew each other. They were brothers. They were friends. They were, though they didn't grow up together,
Mm.
they still were a product from Sun Records mainly, or the Memphis Sound. And it's like he knew BB King, he knew Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash. Who else came from there? Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison. He knew these people.
Do you think, to a certain extent, the guys around him overprotected him too much, in a sense that maybe if he wanted to go out, they were like, no, we can't go out. Too many people are gonna blah 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 blah. Instead of saying, you know what, he wants to go out to a diner, or he wants to go out to do something, let's go with him. But this time, only two or three guys go with him. We don't have to go the whole group. Do you think in a lot of instances they overprotected him, and in a way,
I think
uh,
I think they did that to justify their job.
yes, and at the same time also maybe because of that made him necessarily fearful of something that possibly would never have happened.
Yeah, well,
Maybe.
I do know that the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King put a fear in him of going out and being killed. And he's seen other people killed. Wasn't Sam Cooke killed by somebody
Mhm.
shot him, and you know and I'm sure he got a lot of death threats, or threats to, I'm going to beat the shit out of you or whatever. I know where you live, and they do. Everybody knew where he lived. If he was a recluse, he would not have been living in a type of home he lived in.
Mm-mm.
Not let me put it this way: in the place where he was, where it was a city, he lived in basically just shy of the city line, right, going
Mm.
into the suburbs. You
Yeah,
know, and still, you see these pictures of him going out the gate on the trike or the bike, and Billy's right behind him, and Linda's
yeah,
arm, and he's going out for a
just him
ride.
and Bully. Yeah, just him and Bully, or him and Linda, or him in the car with Ginger and Lisa.
Or the picture of him sitting at the light with some girl in the back who wound up dying, not too much longer after
Yeah,
that. But he's just out for a ride. You got pictures of him riding through L.A. on Harley Davidsons with Johnny Rivers.
yeah.
He wasn't a recluse.
I
Um,
think a lot. I think a lot of time that must have given him a sense of uh, a different sense of freedom, just being out without the hoopla of the guys being around him all the time,
yeah.
giving him some sense of normalcy.
When someone from the neighborhood managed to rise socially or financially, it sparked something in the rest of us. It proved that upward movement was possible. But when Elvis broke through, not just locally, but nationally and globally, the effect in that community was immeasurable. He didn't just move up a rung or two. He left beyond anything any of us could have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. Eventually, the meeting adjourned, and I returned to my office. Almost immediately, the phone rang. A reporter from a major newspaper in eastern Pennsylvania introduced himself, and here they come. Here come
Yes.
the little roaches. He said
Yeah.
he'd been informed that I would be directing the Presley funeral and wanted to confirm it. After I did, he asked whether I had ever met Elvis Presley. So, how does this reporter find it so quick, just minutes after he was confirmed? Well,
Mm.
I would almost say might have been Parker.
I think so.
I told him I
Well,
had many times over.
well, it came out later that he was responsible for the so-called Elvis sightings bullshit that came out in the 80s.
Mm,
The colonel was the one that masterminded that whole plan to keep Elvis's name in the media.
what year was it that the suit was 80, 87, 89? When
Well,
that suit with Parker, that final suit?
oh no, the final suit against Parker.
Yeah,
No,
where
that was 81.
when
Where
they
Lisa,
bought all when they gave him
yes,
they settled a certain amount of money, he had to turn over every piece of memorabilia.
yes, 1981.
That's another story to talk about because
Yeah,
supposedly,
it was the first. It was the first major case in entertainment history that a minor had filed against somebody and actually won.
hmm. So I told him I had met Elvis many times over. On an impulse, I found myself sharing something more personal than professional. I remember the first time I saw Elvis on national TV. I told him it was during his appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. After it ended, I rushed to the bathroom, grabbed some hair grease. I tell you what, I grew up. My mom used to put that freaking Brill cream in my hair, and hate, I can't take lotions and stuff like that. Like, I feel like I get claustrophobic or something. I can't, well, I'm better these days, but I'd get to, I'd get, when she would do that, I'd walk to school, and when I stopped by my buddy's house to pick him up, I'd go in the house and wash it all out, wash it in the sink, get it all out of there. After I ended, I rushed to the bathroom, grabbed some hair grease, and spent the next couple of hours trying to comb my hair just like his. The reporter chuckled and asked if I had ever seen him perform. I said, yes. I was there around 11 years old when he played the Overton Park Band Show. Wouldn't that have been cool?
Hmm.
Not long after he stepped on the stage, he noticed a group of us kids from the old neighborhood getting together off to the side. He waved us forward and invited us to sit on the stage with him. At that
Jeez.
time, Elvis was only 20, but his star was already rising fast. Even then, he hadn't forgotten where he came from or the people
Hmm.
who had known him before the world did.
Hmm.
He gave back to his city. And he still to this day
And
is
it's
giving
still
back to the
to this
city.
day,
You know,
Memphis wouldn't be Memphis if it
it's
wasn't for Alice.
it's like Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's chocolate. It's like Orlando. It's Disney World. It's like Anaheim. It's Disneyland. These places. these cities that have a standout. You know, in New York, it was the World Trade Center. Um,
I
but,
mean,
but you go to Memphis, the first thing I think most people think of is Elvis.
another great example, Tupelo.
Yeah, and Tupelo, Tupelo. Oh, what was that one going to say? Tupelo. What was it?
Yeah, Tupelo,
Tupelo. Hi, I'm going to Tupelo with
Tupelo,
Jennifer
and
Mars
PI.
and the Roddy Q.
I'm going to, I'm going to pee low, and he's going to pee high.
Oh my God. Was he good to you when you were kids? He continued. Yes. Always courteous, always kind. He never acted superior, never talked down to us. Even after he was famous, he treated us the same. There was a brief pause on the line before the reporter shifted direction, and I knew it was coming. I suppose you're going to ask what that book written by the bodyguards, I said. He didn't deny it. Says, I've
Hmm.
seen parts of it. All I can say is that I remember Elvis as an extraordinary entertainer and, in my experience, a decent person. As for the allegations, I don't have any comment. And good for him.
Mm.
The reporter pressed on, would you want your own son to grow up like Elvis? I repeated the question slowly, only a moment to think. His lifestyle had its flaws, I admitted. There were things that disappointed people, things that were said or reported, but that doesn't erase what he accomplished or what he meant to so many.
Hmm.
But before I could elaborate further, the switchboard operator interrupted to say that the call had been expecting was waiting on the other line.
Mm.
The reporter thanked me for my time and ended the conversation. I pressed the button on the receiver and waited for the transfer. I had a strong feeling I knew who was calling. Dum dum
Dun,
dum.
dun, dun.
All right, gotta do it again. I should make it real fast so we can get through real quick. But that's perfect for Joe because every one of his stories is mm, mm, mm. Here's a fully rewritten original version that preserves the meaning. Oh, wait a minute. When the phone rang again, it wasn't Joe Esposito on the line. It was David Magis from Han Cook Funeral Home in Oklahoma City. He explained that the officials at Service Corporation International had contacted him regarding a discontinued casket model his facility still had in storage. He understood that our Memphis location was interested. I confirmed that we were. I told him we intended to send a plane to retrieve it and that the casket would ultimately be placed in our new Cadillac number 25 hearse, the
Hmm.
same one that would transport Elvis from the autopsy suite at Baptist Memorial Hospital to our funeral home, then later to Graceland for the private and public viewings, and finally to Forest Hill Cemetery, Midtown, for burial. Magis had already been informed that the casket was intended for Presley. He sounded both professional and quietly awed, aware that he would play a small part in a historic event. Because the transfer was internal within the SCI network, there was no discussion of price. The accounting would be settled later as part of the overall funeral arrangements. He assured me the casket would be ready as soon as the aircraft arrived. After thanking him, I handed the details over to one of the managers. But when the call ended, my attention shifted back to the silence from Baptist Hospital and from Joe. The longer I waited, the more uneasy I became. I contacted the switchboard operator and instructed her to hold all incoming calls unless they were from Joe. Now it was so simply a matter of waiting, and while I sat there anticipating word that the autopsy had been completed, I struggled internally with a truth I still hadn't fully observed. Elvis Presley, someone I'd known since childhood, was gone. I caught myself drifting into denial. Enough of that, I told my family. You've got a job to do. There's too much at stake. I told myself firmly, dumbass. You got a job to do. There's too much at stake to let your emotions take control. Stay sharp. The self talk felt familiar. It reminded me of the moments before stepping onto a football field for a game, or more fiddly before entering a karate match. There's always that flicker of doubt before competition, a quiet fear that your best effort might not be enough.
Sure.
So I think we break it there. That was how it felt. Then the telephone rang again. So we'll pick it up from, um, ooh, it was Bob Kindle speaking. So that's him. We're going to pick it up right there. next week as we go.
You look spent.
You know, I think for a lot of people, they would find reading that boring, all of this, and it's really not. It's not real titillating right now. And I think once we get into Kindle's, you know, what the process that happens for what he did, it still fascinates me. Just some of the little things that make you think, you know, about like we were talking about the cleanup of the room.
Mm,
Does it really matter? I don't
mm,
know. Did it? Well, I don't think we'll ever know because we don't know what was thrown away.
mm,
It's like the pajamas and the book and all that stuff. Who gives a shit what color they are? But still, at that point in time when you have an event like that, your mind retains, certain memories, but it also retains things that I forget. In one of the in our chat yesterday in a Zoom movie, we talked about how in an event like this, or even in a police investigation, when you got five witnesses there, this mostly always happens. Each one's got a different story. Yeah, he was wearing a red shirt. No, he's wearing a blue shirt.
mhm,
The guy was tall. The guy was short. And they're all telling them what they saw in their mind. That's what they saw.
mm.
Today, these days, you've got, of course, Graceland. I don't know. In this day and age, where you could have cameras all around your house, all totally surveilled, have your house under complete surveil with all kinds of cameras for 200, $300. They're easy to pop up. And you got your, oh, that's my house. I'm here alone all the time, so I got cameras around it, and that's what broke me away earlier because I didn't know who it was, and the dogs were in the backyard, like they were. He was in the backyard, so it kind of scared me there for a minute. Um. Anyways, I think I'm enjoying these two books, and I think 30 Pieces of Silver is going to be even
Mm.
more because that's a breakdown of Elvis, what happened.
I think if Elvis had survived, then the relevance of cleaning the room and what they threw away, etc., would have become relevant.
Yeah.
But considering he didn't, it has no relevance
Yeah.
in my
Yeah,
book.
Kid Gale, thank you so much for joining us. I know some of you are getting ready to leave now, so those of you leaving right now, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I look forward so much to the discussion every week. It's just fascinating, and you guys, your inputs and your thoughts are all appreciated. I wish I could read comments faster and recognize all of them, but I've
I
got
um
I've got 300 comments in here.
I tend to agree with Helen to a certain extent. Uh, I say
Yeah,
the mistake came with that whole process was it was not supervised by anybody,
yeah,
and that so-called cleaning up the room by all and sundry gave them the perfect opportunity to go through everything because they obviously had to look for medication bottles, syringes, anything that looked suspect. So that opened a passageway for them to open everything and look where everything was. And we all know today that certain people helped themselves. They had a free for all garage sale.
yeah. That's the thing. They supposedly had a plan, but they didn't execute the plan.
No.
And I think that would have been a discussion if they had a plan in the event. Like supposedly they had a plan because supposedly they had one of the Stanleys. They usually had somebody up there. You know, what do you say? Not protecting, but
Being on call.
monitoring would probably
Mm.
be the best word.
Fat load of good they were. Elvis could have taken the statue of Jesus that was standing next to his boat and put him in the room. It would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
But
they
okay, that's just my opinion.
in a plan, they would have considered all those options if they were, if there was somebody smart enough to lay out a plan and review with everybody, make sure they understood their roles. Because in a plan, they would have had somebody up there. Would it made
Supervising.
any difference when he died? It all depends on whether they'd heard him and he yelled for help. Um,
I don't think he was in a state to be honest. I
Well,
think
no,
everything.
but the point I'm trying to make of that is that would have been the only way they could have gotten in there quick enough to maybe save him, is if
Yeah.
he'd done that. So you can make a plan, and all plans will have something can always divert that plan. But if that plan still should have consistencies that are set, like, all right, if this happens, we need, if we have an event where he's going to the hospital, the police or anybody's got to come here. Someone's got to take account of getting rid of all the pill bottles or whatever. For what they did, it was all just a matter of a free for all.
Mm. And I'm sure there's people that took stuff out of there that's not even known today. I'm sure of it. I'm almost sure of it.
Yeah. Um. Well, this was fun. It was a good discussion. I always like talking about Elvis and learning some stuff. And at the end of the day, when we finish this book, will we have definitive answers and everything? Nah, we'll never have 100% definitive answers on this. We'll have our opinions. And just to real quick, here, let me just play this.
This is all for entertainment purposes only. Our comments are our opinions only. We make no claims as to fact, and the viewer should make their own opinions. All opinions are welcome on Elvis-A-Z.
All right, so everything we talk about is just an opinion. We don't state anything here as fact. We don't state that this book is fact. We just discuss it and we can come to our own conclusions. And I've always said this ever since I've had this channel. I don't think of anybody's opinion as being wrong. I think that we all have a great community here where we can respect everybody's wishes, everybody's opinions, and that's nice, because we've all got different ideas about it or feelings about whether that should have happened or this should not have happened. That's all our own. That's our own emotions. And that's what I want to do. That's what I do. Why I like doing this is because we can stir those emotions up. We can talk about it. And you guys, I hopefully you all feel comfortable sharing your opinions and your thoughts about all this because I honestly love reading them when I can get to them. You guys are so good at it. You guys are like bam, bam, bam. I
Well,
bet you. I just looked here a second ago and I had 93 comments I hadn't even reviewed yet. You got
you
and
know,
so for that I apologize. I want to get to everyone, but fortunately Cam catches them too, so that helps out a lot.
I in a way, this is kind of cathartic for me too, because given my experience over the last couple of weeks, um, it kind of helps to say that it's all good and well. We're sitting here and we're having a discussion and we're saying this, that, and the next thing. But at the end of the day, as much as we don't want to admit or even accept it to a certain point, it was his time to go, and that's it.
Yeah,
Is it easy? No. Does it
it's
seem
never easy.
uh, no? Uh, should a lot of people done things differently? Yes. But would it have changed the final outcome? No.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you. It's almost 3 hours, guys. Thank you. A fast, very fast 3 hours.
Mm.
So look forward to next week. Keep an eye out on my notifications. I'm gonna try to figure out when we. I really want to start getting into 30 pieces. But I got to figure out when the hell I'm going to do that. I got so much stuff going. So I'll figure it out one way or another. But anyways, thank you. Tomorrow we've got the other Elvis Zoom movie, the second playing of GI Blues. That's at 6 o'clock tomorrow night Eastern Standard Time. We do that every week, 3 and 6 for the film, and we play the same movie for both times. So hopefully more people. We got radio show, and we got a lot of shit going on. So check our posts and make sure that you can catch them. But you know what? I've actually got a new song to go out with. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening, day, morning. Some of you are tomorrow already if you're in Australia. All right. Lori, Sally, Jerry, Seacat, Satnin, Kim Gale, Kathleen. I can name them all, can I? Everybody with the first name that starts with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. All right, love you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to go out with this Stacks recording and find out what's happening.
Thanks, guys.